Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice Radio, and yesterday I showed you a video where we looked at what was good in Japan. And I thought, well, that's all well and good, but we probably need to take a look at what's good outside of Japan. And given that it's been just over a week since we had an international championship, looking at all of the very best decks in Europe, North America, etc., it was probably time we had a little bit of a look at what's good outside of Japan, focusing largely on North America and Europe. And just like we could say with absolute certainty that Reshiram and Charizard was the very best deck in Japan, we can say with absolute certainty that the very best deck outside of Japan is Pikachu and ZEKROM. And look, I don't think this is going to last, but it doesn't need to last. Because I'm looking at what's good now. There is a regional in Bristol in the UK coming up on the weekend. Incidentally, I will be there. If anyone's there, come and say hello. It would be lovely to meet you, lovely ladies and gentlemen. And this is what I expect to be good. And I expect the top tables to be full of Pikachu and ZEKROM. Simple as that. Pikachu and ZEKROM, it's the same as it's always been. Thunder Mountain reduces your attack cost by 1. And then Tapu Koko Prism Star attaches 1 energy to 2 of your bench Pokemon. And then as long as one of those energy goes on to Pikachu and ZEKROM, and you've got Thunder Mountain in play, then you can attack for a single energy. You do 150 while attaching 3 energy to one of your Pokemon from the deck, and at some point you've got 6 energy on, and you do 200 damage plus 170 to the bench. Take a double KO, swing the prize trade in your favour, it's amazing. And make no mistake about it, that is the very best deck in the format, hands down, no question. PIKACHU is king. PIKACHU was king at the International Championships in Berlin, and it will be king in Bristol. I can't tell you for absolute certainty it's going to win, because, you know, I ain't going to be playing it. I mean, I also ain't going to be winning, but that's not the point. But I can tell you it's going to be everywhere. If we look at the top 8 over in Berlin, it was 1st, it was 2nd, it was 7th, it was 8th. And there were only 2 other decks that even made it into the top 8. And really, you could even say top 9 here. And one of them is extremely similar. It's Zapdos Jirachi. Very simply, Zapdos does 80 damage for a single energy, just so long as you became active this turn. And then Jirachi, if it's in the active, you get to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer card, and put it into your hand. And you need to be swapping Zapdos in and out the active every turn anyway, in order to get the benefit of the extra damage, so you might as well swap Jirachi in, use the ability, you go to sleep, but it's okay. You've got a skateboard, you can free retreat, and round you go, ladies and gentlemen. Round and round you go. It's really kind of nice. The thing is, there's quite a lot of overlap, because sometimes people are just playing Pikachu and ZEKROM and going aggro. Sometimes people are playing many Jirachi, many Zapdos, and just one Pikachu and ZEKROM. Sometimes people are playing Pikachu and ZEKROM with one Zapdos as a non-GX attacker. And then there's cards like Tapu Koko GX, like Zera Aura GX, that we end up seeing in all of the decks. Sometimes they're in, sometimes they're not, but you sometimes see him in PIKACHU, and you sometimes see him in Zapdos Jirachi. And sometimes the decks are clearly separate, and sometimes they're not. So we look at Gustavo Wada's winning deck, 2 Pikachu and ZEKROM, but 3 Zapdos, 3 Jirachi. So what deck is that? The answer is, essentially, that's what the answer is. Now, they are by far the biggest decks. The 2 of those accounted for 8 of the top 16 decks, and the vast majority of the rest of the top 16 was Zoroark Lycanroc. And this isn't a new deck, it's not a fancy deck. At this point, it's probably not even a really very exciting deck. This has been one of the best decks since Zoroark came out in Shining Legends, because we already had Lycanroc, and it just never goes away. Zoroark does 120 for a single energy, that, well, double colourless, but it's 1 energy attachment. And then the ability allows you to discard 1 card from your hand, so that you get to draw 2. Okay, cool. I suppose. It's kind of nice. We kind of like it. Could be worse. And then you got Lycanroc, whose ability pulls a Pokemon from the bench into the active. And you can hit for fighting weakness, which is good against Zoroark and against PIKACHU. And a pretty nice GX attack. And look, it's the same as it's always been. And sure, sometimes now you see Oranguru, so you can play a bit of a more control variant, so you can keep reusing resources. And sometimes you see Alola Muck in there to get some counters off to some stuff. But it's largely the same deck it's always been. It's largely the same deck it's been since the beginning. And then, of course, we see a couple of other decks, but really, everything else is a fringe deck at this stage. Because if we go back to Berlin, and we look at the top cut, there were 2 decks in top 16 that weren't one of these archetypes. We saw a single Tapu Koko spread deck, where, well, you use Tapu Koko to spread a whole bunch of damage around. 20 damage to each Pokemon for a double colorless energy. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff in there, like a Tapu Lele that can rearrange all of the damage, and that's kind of fun. But really, it's just a spreading deck. And you revolve around Tapu Koko. And it's fine. It's okay. It's alright. It's fine. But it's a one-off. And then we see a Naganadel Stack Attacker Buzzwole deck, where Naganadel does more damage for each Ultra Beast you got in play. Stack Attacker reduces the amount of damage done to your Ultra Beast, and then you got Buzzwole there, and Buzzwole's a fighting Pokemon. It hits for fighting weakness. And look, it's awesome that someone got top 16 with this. I should probably do a video about it. But the fact of the matter is, you can't play Diancie Prism Star to do the extra damage because it's not an Ultra Beast. And you don't really have any consistency cards, so it's fine. But it's a little bit awkward. And then everything else is just these occasional decks. And if we go beyond the top 3, there's actually quite a wide variety of viable decks at the moment. So we've got Blacephalon Naganadel. Naganadel accelerates energy from the discard pile to itself, and then Blacephalon can lost zone energy from anywhere on your side of the field to do extra damage. So you accelerate the energy to Naganadel, lost zone it with Blacephalon, boom, you're off, you're rolling. It's a big, powerful deck. Speaking of big, powerful decks, we've got Malamar decks that play stuff like Ultra Necrozma, where Malamar accelerates energy to Ultra Necrozma. Ultra Necrozma discards it all, does huge damage. And they'll often play Giratina as a non-GX attacker here. And look, this gets top cards. This is seen running around. But it's probably not the powerhouse deck it used to be. Rayquaza Vikavolt, this is a particular favourite of mine. I adore this deck. Using Vikavolt to accelerate energy, 1 grass, 1 lightning per Vikavolt per turn, and then using Rayquaza GX to smash. And now that you got Tapu Koko Prism Star to get extra energy on the field, and Shaman Prism Star to essentially, it's got the same attack. It's for 2 grass energy rather than 1 grass, 1 lightning, 1 colourless. But outside of that, it's the same attack, just on a non-GX. So there's plenty of reasons to love this deck nowadays. Similarly, we've seen a tiny bit of love for Quagsire Naganadel. Naganadel gets energy on the field, Quagsire moves it to the active, and you attack with Quagsire quite a lot, but you've also got Magikarp and Wailord as a big attacker or blocking Pokemon, or however you really want to use it. And there's plenty of good stuff about this. But let's not pretend it's some powerhouse deck taking over the format. And that's essentially where we are. Oh, Celebi and Venusaur, there's one more. Celebi and Venusaur, you see it running around here and there. And it's big and it's bulky and it heals with Life Forest Prism Star and the Shaman from Lost Thunder, and then you use special conditions and all of that. It's a fun deck. But again, it's not a powerhouse. We really are at the moment in a format where we have got a top 3 decks. A very clear, obvious top 3 decks. Pikachu and ZEKROM, Zapdos and Jirachi, Zoroark and Lycanroc. They are the 3 best decks in the format. And then there's a whole bunch of other decks, which are decent, which see a bunch of play. that's about it. So essentially the message here is really simple. Unbroken Bonds is legal next weekend. That is Friday the 17th. So if you're going to a Pokemon tournament this Friday, this Saturday, this Sunday, heck, any time between now and Friday, the 17th, make sure you can beat those 3 decks. Because if you can't, you're not going to have a very good time. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Yesterday I told you what's good in Japan. Today I told you what's good outside of Japan. And there we go. So now I would very much like you guys to tell me what you think about this. So please do let me know in the comment section. Tell me what your favorite deck is right now. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about games that don't have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.